Hey, welcome to the Thriving Minds podcast with your host, Walter Parada, where we strive to provide you with empowering talks so you can live to thrive. I hope you find yourself in the right frame of mind, focusing on the things within your control. All right, so today's episode is what happens when we're wrong. For many of us, when we find out that we're wrong in whatever we're doing, it bruises our confidence a bit that can bring about a certain level of embarrassment. When you're wrong and only you know it, it can feel a bit more digestible, where you can shrug it off because it is only you that deals with it. But when you're wrong and other people know it, it can be much harder to deal with because it can bring about a flood of "I told you so," being ridiculed, put down, or losing others' trust. This can trigger that defensiveness because it's others attacking us from multiple angles. That negativity that it brings makes that sensation much stronger and leads us to want to not be wrong going forward. In avoiding being wrong, it's a sensible approach because it's about aiming to play it safe. We want to know that we're doing things right or well, and if not, it can make us crawl into that state of wanting to do nothing. This is primarily built on the confidence that is had. Generally, a person's confidence tends to be correlated to the number of correct things that they do. So the more correct things done, the greater the confidence will be. But what about avoiding being wrong? Does avoiding being wrong increase your confidence? Some might say that it can, or at the very least, it preserves it. But I think that in avoiding being wrong, it takes away at being risk averse that can be very beneficial as it does not develop accountability. There's actually a tremendous benefit in experiencing being wrong. Not on a consistent basis because it can damage a person's confidence consistently, but experiencing it in the right amount. The right amount of being wrong is all dependent on the person. For some, there's going to be those that have a high tolerance for it, where their belief within themselves seems to be unwavering, and they're more inclined to take on risk. They can try so many different things and are still steadfast in the way that they approach life. For others, it is difficult in experiencing being wrong because there's a level of needing to see certain results to continue to do the same behaviors. This is where caution drives a person's actions to mitigate risk. It's not that they'll avoid risk at all costs, but they'll carefully assess when and where to take risk. There will be a certain level of comfort in taking on new and unfamiliar situations. But for those that are completely against being wrong, it can be a big detriment because it means missing out on great opportunities. It creates a constant need for certainty and safety that keeps you in a very small circle of competence. Now, it's important to be able to do things well because it gives a sense of contribution and significance. In the short term, being wrong can hurt. It will hurt. It's an uncomfortable position to be in, but experiencing enough of it and reflecting on it makes the unknown less intimidating. This obviously is going to lead to being comfortable in failing, because in failing, you learn and gain a lot of things about yourself that you can apply going forward. Being wrong and acknowledging it allows you to enjoy what you do. It takes some of the pressure off of needing to excel at everything that you do. It lets your guard down to being open to new things beyond what you know. And this leads to gaining perspective, to step outside yourself and experiencing wonderful surprises. This really helps to knock down some of those self-destructive thoughts of living up to needing to appear right, which only inflates the ego. A lot of times this might come from those that influence us, where they put an unreasonable amount of expectation on us. This could be parents or teachers or friends that put conditions on us to behave a certain way or to deliver certain results. Saying things like failure is not an option can make it seem like it's an all or nothing situation that we're constantly facing. And this can lead to catastrophizing things, to sound the alarm, to act with more urgency to deliver results right now. Some people really thrive under these conditions, but others, it can be off-putting where it triggers a wanting to rebel, just not bringing out the best in people. Think of some of the common things that were used to motivate us. A lot of them tend to be consequences that need to be avoided, such as if you don't do your homework, you're going to fail the class. If you don't deliver this project as expected, then your job is on the line, or we might go out of business. Or if you don't eat well, then you're going to die soon. Instead, these types of things should be reframed such as, if you do your homework, you're going to gain a greater amount of knowledge that gives you more options to do whatever you want to do in life. Or if you do the best you can on delivering the project, everyone's going to benefit from it. Or if you begin to eat well, you're going to improve the quality of your life. By rephrasing it in these types of manner, it gets us to focus on the good things that are possible instead of avoiding the bad things, and it takes some of the power away from what is negative. This just emphasizes the good and minimizes the bad. Just think about that old school mentality of when things go well, nothing is said because that's what's expected. But when things go wrong, that's when everybody opens their mouth about everything that was done wrong. It brings out that hostility that just pits people against each other. Obviously, we're all going to experience unpleasant circumstances, but those that can turn things around are focused on what can be done going forward instead of looking at what already happened and blaming. Naturally, we're going to want to panic and find fault for when things go wrong. This is part of the survival side that we all have. In being self-aware of yourself when things go wrong, you're more likely to overcome being wrong instead of being frozen by it. To know where you're going, you got to know where you currently are. This shows how much further you need to go to reach your destination. Sometimes that means being really close, and sometimes that means you're really off. And being really off from where you want to be, it can be discouraging because of the distance in between that shows how much work is yet to be done. This is why when you can see when you're close to finishing or reaching your destination, you become rejuvenated because you can see what has been anticipated. The light at the end of the tunnel is within reach. But when you're far off, or what appears to be far off, darkness takes over and it becomes much harder to see what you're working towards. And when you can acknowledge when you're wrong, it better prepares you for when things are dark, because experiencing enough of that discomfort, it quiets the panic that wants to come out and slowly brings that calmness within you to navigate uncertainty. This can prove very crucial in many situations because it will lead you to retreat or continue to forge ahead. For many people, uncertainty is a very scary thing to deal with and will put up with unhappy uncertainty just to make sure they continue to survive. This might come from the lack of confidence that they can navigate the unknowns. Others contribute to the matter by projecting negativity that further cripples the belief within a person. The kinder things of this negativity is saying things like, be sensible, go with what you know, or just guarantee your needs are going to be taken care of. The harsher words are, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, or you're not strong enough to go after what you really want. Hearing this type of language on a consistent basis eventually becomes ingrained in your thoughts. If this is the case and you want to be able to handle being wrong, for you to be better, you got to counter what others are saying by questioning the negative connotation that is said. Asking, if I'm wrong, can I recover from it? And for many situations, the answer is yes. If you break a bone, lose money, suffer some sort of setback, typically it does not mean game over. You can start over or just pick up where you left off. So if you were wrong in the decisions that you made, you can make up for it by making good decisions going forward. You just got to get past the uncomfortable stingy feeling of when it first does come about. A great way to really just get comfortable in admitting when you're wrong is saying it to yourself and not just thinking it, but saying it out loud to yourself, where you actually say the decision I made was wrong. And this helps to alleviate some of the pressure of living up to a certain expectation. If you're wrong and it affects others, admitting to them that you're wrong is also going to be very beneficial. It can actually earn you more respect amongst your peers because it shows to them that you can self-evaluate, self-regulate, put your ego aside, and just be honest with them. What many people want is that level of transparency that earns greater trust. And typically, when you can admit to somebody that you're wrong, it shows a more humane and compassionate side that is reciprocated, where others can be more open to you and also admit when they're wrong. There's actually significant power in acknowledging and saying this to others. It really lets your guard down to be yourself, to know that you're going to make mistakes just like everybody else does, and just got to move past it instead of dwelling on it. This is where significant progress comes from, because for many of the successes that people enjoy, there were many wrong turns taken, wrong decisions made, but in being reflective, trying to gain valuable information, it allowed them to pivot to the successes that they achieved. Make it a habit of actually weekly and even daily, if it's helpful, to call out when you were wrong, as this takes away some of that shock factor where you become a bit desensitized to it. Some of the common things such as, oh, I'm running late. I was wrong in preparing my lunch at the last second, and instead will prepare the night before to save a few extra minutes. Or I was wrong in preparing for the exam or the presentation. I'll dedicate more time next time to get better results. This might not seem like it's going to make a difference, but consistently doing so adds up over time. Just like a few cents here and there, a few dollars here and there, it adds up. The language that you use becomes layered, and that's where you default to, whether good or bad. Get comfortable with being wrong because it is telling you to pivot quickly, to make sure things are corrected before it becomes a big problem. In avoiding being wrong, it coddles and limits you. So when change comes about, and if it happens quickly, it can be really hard to deal with. The more you put off acknowledging when you're wrong, the less adaptable and boxed in you become, that leads to catastrophizing any discomfort that is experienced. Simple things such as making a wrong turn in an unfamiliar location or having a delivery come late is going to be blown out of proportion. So when things much bigger happen, such as a car accident or getting into an argument with someone, it becomes much more overwhelming, that causes an outburst or shutdown. But practicing accepting being wrong, the simple wrongs are less bothersome, and the bigger ones are handled with far greater composure and effectiveness. It still can be scary the bigger the wrong is, but having the calmness take over quiets that want to panic. Just think of what emergency teams go through to prepare themselves for actual situations. Police officers, SWAT teams, firefighters, EMTs, utility operators. These are all people that go over and train in specific situations to become aware of what may come. The things like handling the initial shock factor, what to look for in handling certain situations, and how exactly to go about executing. That practice, that dry run, really eases them so they can be their best when it actually does come about. Come to see the wrongs as ironing out the details before moving on to bigger things. The better you can refine the little things, the better chance you have of doing the bigger things well. If you just take a look at how you did back in math when you were in school, or if you're currently in school right now, if you happen to perform poorly, this is a good wake-up call to get the fundamentals squared away. Work through the feeling of disappointment and frustration to see what exactly about math is preventing you from grasping the material well. Fight off the urge to say, I'm not smart enough, or I don't get it, and instead say, I don't understand the material because of this specific detail. The more that you can hone in and uncover the details, the more it starts to make sense where it eventually clicks. In focusing on getting better, this can increase your financial literacy to help you be financially stronger. Let's not allow the initial starting point to determine how good you'll be. A lot of times, how difficult things initially are for us will dictate our want to continue doing it. It's human nature to look for what's easy. We want to do as little work as possible to get by, to be on cruise control and stay away from any interruptions that throws us off course from what is certain. And in being wrong, it is hard to handle, which is why for many of us, we want to avoid it. We want to feel good about ourselves, and being wrong does the opposite of that. This can be viewed as the beneficial things that we should be doing but don't want to, such as eating healthy on a regular basis, exercising consistently, reading empowering material more than watching TV or videos. We all have the need to be respected and feel valued, and being wrong can chip away at that. It makes self-doubt prevalent, and others may lose respect when you're wrong, so part of warding off and deflecting responsibility is preserving the position you have in the hierarchy within an organization. Think of CEOs of companies. They want to avoid being seen as wrong by the people that they're leading. People may question if the CEO is qualified to continue to run the company in an effective manner. They'll be hesitant to do what the CEOs instruct them to do that can make it feel threatening. Parents might experience the same thing in being wrong in front of their children, or us just being wrong amongst our peers. These types of things can make it feel like we're being knocked down in the totem pole, where it chips away at what brings significance. I think we all experience this at some point. We want to make sure that we don't let down the people that we're leading or dependent on us. The things that we do, whether good or bad, depending on how a person sees it, shapes and affects how others behave and treat us. The more of any one of these things, the more others will see us that way, that will affect how we see ourselves. So if I'm constantly causing problems or doing stupid things, then others are going to see me that way and remind me of it. Then I'm going to consistently be thinking that I'm always going to be that way, and this can lower my confidence and lose respect. And the opposite is, if I'm consistently doing great, people are going to see me in the same manner that increases my confidence and will have a greater respect. So we try to do whatever we can to be held in high regard to the people that we respect and admire. This is part of the needing to fit in, to know that we belong and that we're significant. But when you can be open and sincere to people about the mistakes that you've made, you can still have their respect because they might be going through something similar. People can be very compassionate to one another when they're experiencing the same types of struggle. When we keep it to ourselves, it can feel very isolating that keeps everyone in their own corner. This might even lead to people trying to hide what they're going through because it feels like only they have that problem or no one can relate to it. This creates a level of embarrassment that cripples us from being our full selves. Just think of all the common things that we do that can feel a bit embarrassing, such as burping or farting. We all know that we do it, but when we do it in front of other people by accident, it can be very isolating. Now, there's some people that are going to find that very off-putting and they might lose respect for you. But then there's going to be another set of people that are going to laugh it off and say, it's natural, we all do it. If we can just be transparent with ourselves and the people that we hold close to us, then it starts to take away that want to hide some of those insecurities that we have. And that's a great part of what being wrong does for us. It chips away at being embarrassed and can be our full selves with all the great things about us and all the faults too. We all want to be known for the great things that we do and hide some of those faults, or at least minimize them, but those faults allow us to better connect with one another. It's like one of those moments of, you have that same problem too, And then it allows us to open up with one another. And then we come to find out that, hey, maybe it's not as big as what I thought, because now I have somebody to talk to or somebody to lean on, and we can help each other. I think this is what makes great organizations great, is that their leaders will recognize when they are wrong and when they've made mistakes, and they'll be honest and transparent with their team to let them know that they too are flawed. Just because a leader is in a leadership position does not make them bulletproof, does not make them this almighty, can't do wrong, always right, dominant type of figure. This can result in a very magnificent triumph where everybody else picks up the slack, that they can come together, work as a team for the better. This builds camaraderie and can further unite all the individuals to really work in unison. It's a wonderful transformation that comes out of the challenges that are faced, hardships that are endured. Generally, we all would like things to consistently go smoothly without any resistance or bumps along the way. But that really doesn't make us better as individuals and as organizations. And in being wrong, it can get us out of that pettiness of needing to appear right to ourselves and in front of others, to know that we're all flawed and that's okay. It keeps the ego in check because it brings about humility to know that we don't know everything, and that's fine. And when we can recognize that, it leaves us open to learning and growing in so many wonderful ways. Now, at times, it's going to be very painful, and we're going to want to run for the hills. But when we can self-assess and find out what was learned from it, we can apply that information going forward. That makes us better. So let yourself be wrong. Say it to yourself. Say it out loud. Say it to the people that you're close with, and you become better acclimated to it. That better prepares you for uncertainty and challenges, because we're all going to face them. Now, maybe you shouldn't shout it from the rooftops about how wrong you are, about the mistakes that you made, but just enough comfort in experiencing it to know that you messed up, and that's okay. You'll overcome it. It is only a temporary state that you can work your way out of, and the key is to find what was gained from it and avoid dwelling on the hurt or what others think. Set the tone by leading the way, so when others make mistakes, instead of calling them out for it, be constructive and supportive, as this is going to create more of an open and unified atmosphere. Tell them that we've all been there, and let's see what we can do better the next time. This can lead to others handling themselves the same way, so when you're wrong, they're more likely to be there in your time of need, where self-doubt wants to be overly critical of the mishap that occurred. Just remember, being wrong is not a bad thing. It's just a part of life that we're all going to eventually experience. And the difference is, those that can acknowledge when they are wrong are the ones that typically come out way much better in the end, because they avoid repeating the same mistakes. This is going to help you not take yourself too seriously, but also not without a care in the world. It's striking the balance between the two. Being wrong are just speed bumps in life's journey to get us to pay attention to what's ahead. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested in more topics like this, become a Thriving Minds member at www.thrivingminds.live so you can build that right mindset and live to thrive. All right, until next time.